Hey book besties, it's Gracie and welcome to my May reading wrap up. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to hold this in one stack. I did it for the thumbnail and it was about to fall over, but I'm gonna try again. Ready? I read and listened to 14 books in the month of May, and oh boy, it just felt so good to absorb all of these stories. I had some pretty good reads this month. I'm about to drop them, but here's a little sneak peek of what I'm going to talk about in this video. Okay, yep, they're falling. If you have seen any of my previous reading wrap-ups here on YouTube, you know that those can be some long-winded videos where I go into it without spoilers, don't tell you any more than you can know on the back of the book. Those videos are fun, but you know what? I thought let's try and switch it up this month. Not that those videos don't perform well, but obviously I know I'm not a full-on booktube channel, and that is totally okay. This is like a side passion, hobby I love, and I won't stop making these videos because I believe that it is fun to have hobbies. And my hobby obviously is taking over my whole life with reading. I think that this is such a great way for me to completely detox from social media, pick up a book on my Kindle, a physical book copy, and just be somewhere totally different for a little bit. So all that being said, I thought I would switch it up this month. So if you've seen the shorts, the TikToks, the Instagram Reels, I post it to all of my channels. I do a yes, no, maybe every month, like quick rapid fire video that I do for short form content where I tell you yes, no, or maybe, and then put the book away. So I'm gonna do a sit down version today of a yes, no, maybe for my 14 May reads, just because there's a lot to go through. And then I'm gonna give you a little bit about why I think it's a yes, no, or maybe, sort of like the genre of the book, what I liked about the characters. Again, no spoilers, but in a yes, no, maybe format, I figured that this would be fun, easier to digest, not a super long video, and then y'all will have to tell me in the comments down below after you finish watching this video and let me know what style of video you prefer or if I should keep switching it up. I don't know if people do this for long form content. I didn't really look. The idea came to me as I sat on this couch. I was like, let's do something different today, and this is going to be the difference. But let's jump right into it because we have 14 books to talk about today, a yes, no, or maybe, and why. Before we get into it, make sure that you guys add me on Goodreads. I update this in real time, so as soon as I start reading a book, I click currently reading, and then when I finish it, I give it the star review. Secretly, this is a selfish thing. I love being friends with y'all on Goodreads because I steal a lot of your reading recommendations. So we're friends so that I can also see what you're reading and add it to my TBR. This really does nothing monetarily for me. Again, it is purely selfish that I want to know what you guys are reading too. And in case you haven't seen any of my short form content, make sure that you're following me on my other social medias to stay up to date, not only with my books, but with my life. I sort of share everything on there, from travel to lifestyle, of course to books, what I'm wearing, all that fun stuff, and I would love to connect with you guys on my other social platforms. Now, without further ado, let's get into the yes, no, maybe of the 14 books I read and listened to in the month of May. This book fell off the stack. It was sort of in the middle of the stack, and then the top fell off, and then this fell off, and so we're gonna start with this book, which actually I'm just gonna give you a spoiler, is in my top 3. That is It's a Love Story by Annabelle Monaghan. This book is a yes from me. And I actually read 2 Annabelle Monaghan books this month. This book just came out at the end of May. I think May 28th was its release day, and I got it as soon as it released and started reading it that day, which is why I finished it in the month of May. I flew through this book. I was skeptical about Annabelle Monaghan going into this month before reading this one and the other book that I read this month, because I read her book same time next summer last year, and I just was like, like I felt like it was so overhyped for what. But let me tell you, this book hit the spot. Giggling, kicking my feet, like those emotions when you just feel like a little schoolgirl reading a book, absolutely ate this one up. It's an enemies to lovers romance, which we love. 2 different locations. We've got some fun scouting out that we're doing, and of course you sort of know how this book is going to end the entire time that you're reading it, but so good. I thought it was well written. I was captivated. I didn't want to put this book down, and it's not a long read at all. This would be the perfect beach read. I know I keep saying that, and I'm gonna make a list of books that I think are perfect beach reads, not just like the, oh, this is the beach read summer list. Like, no, my perfect beach reads. This is definitely going to be on it, but that is It's a Love Story, Annabelle Monaghan. This is a big fat yes from me. Evie Woods, an author that I love to listen to her audiobooks for. This is Mysterious Bakery on Rue de Paris, or Rue de Paris, because it is set in France, and that's probably actually how it's pronounced. This was an audiobook listen for me, and I'm gonna put it in the category of maybe. Something about it just didn't strike me all the way around. She has a lot of magical elements in her book, so it's not a realistic romance or a realistic something or other book. It's definitely got a hint of magic, but not exactly fantasy genre. I actually don't know what you would call this. Definitely got a mystery in the book. I thought it was good. I thought it was okay. But when you read 13 books in a month, you're gonna have ones that you like more than others, and so this would be an okay read. If you read 1 to 2 books a month, this is not the one that I'm gonna tell you to pick up. If you've got some spare time or want a good audiobook narrator, narrator. I'm very picky on my narrators, although what we prefer may differ. I actually really liked the audiobook narrator of this one, and Edie is originally from Ireland. I'm O'Connor. I'm very Irish. I actually still have family in Ireland, and so of course, like, I gotta read it. I love it. I love all of her books are set sort of in the UK or in Europe, and I think that this was a good read. It just wasn't perfect. I just jump into another maybe because I'm gonna go quick on this one. Flirting with Disaster. I think her name is pronounced Naina Kumar. If I'm wrong, I'm very sorry. I'm really trying. Flirting with Disaster. Okay, this is a book that would be perfect to read in September. Like the worst and the best to read in September because it involves a hurricane. And I'm laughing because I'm a Floridian and I've been through many hurricanes, but I do know that they can be absolutely devastating. So let me just say I'm not taking hurricanes lightly, but in the context of this book where it's like a cheesy romance and a hurricane is coming through in forced proximity with, ooh, should I say it? Yes, an ex-wife and ex-husband, or they're about to, because they're about to sign divorce papers. And of course you can imagine they may or may not rekindle their love when they're stuck in the same house together. Maybe, perhaps. I'm not a big political person in general. I'm just gonna leave it at that this like gets not exactly political in its messaging, but she's a politician or she's a lobbyist, and I just feel like whenever then all this DC stuff gets brought in, I'm like, I'm trying to escape the real world here. I'm trying to have a cheesy romance book. I don't want to talk politics. And that is a personal for me, and why this one in the maybe pile. I thought the writing was okay. I wouldn't be against reading another book by her and sort of seeing where it goes with that. But I don't know, like, it's also sort of not super memorable other than the fact of a hurricane, because I was like, oh my gosh, like imagine reading this during hurricane season, which I guess it's June, it's the beginning of June now, has officially started. And in Florida, we are experiencing thunderstorms every single day. Every single day. Actually, it hasn't rained yet today. So that's why this is a maybe. It just wasn't my perfect book, but I think I still gave it 3 stars, you know, because I'm not mean. I haven't had caffeine since 8 a.m. this morning. Like, I don't know what I'm on right now. I just like get really excited talking about books. So I'm gonna try and slow my roll and breathe a little bit, because I'm pretty sure I've been talking way too fast the past couple of books. Frida McFadden. If you guys have seen any of my videos, you should know it's hilarious that not only have I read one, but we'll get into it in a second, 2 Frida books this month. This book, The Tenant, just came out this month. I'm gonna put this in the maybe pile. I didn't love it. I felt like this could have been written by AI. I'm not gonna lie. I also thought that the plot of the book was super weird, but I mean, usually Frida books are, they're just kind of out there and out of the ordinary. But as I say, month and time again, whoever is choosing the audiobook narrators, which I think for a few of them it's the same woman who does it, Frida McFadden's audiobooks are always a yes. They're always a yes. They're always narrated so well, like whatever falls into my categories of like an audiobook that I want to listen to, it's always a Frida McFadden. So if I like gather on my holds list books that I do want to read or want to listen to, and I start it, I'm like, this is not good, this is not good. So I was having one of those moments where I had waited for quite a few books and I was like, oh, I don't like this. I don't really like the narrator. Oh, it's like whatever. I can turn to a Frida book and I'm locked in, even if it's the silliest story, even if it's things that I'm like, what on earth is going on in this book? They always hit. So I actually think, yeah, this one was a maybe because it was really twisted and out there, but also in like a how could this ever be possible sort of a sense about an engaged couple that needs to have a tenant because the husband or the fiance lost his job and they can't afford the mortgage on their brownstone anymore. I'll just give you that bit, and that is truly probably, at least I think, yes, on the back cover. But this book is weird. This book is weird, but I was hooked. I was in it. When I'm listening to these books, I am locked in. I'm wanting to hear what happens, and then after I finish, I'm kind of like, that was okay. That's how I felt about The Tenant. The Locked Door, however, came toward at the end of this month where, again, I was sort of in an audiobook slump of not liking what was available and none of my holds being available. And so naturally I typed in Frida McFadden and The Locked Door was available right away. And I said, I'm gonna go for that book. It looks like it has good Goodreads ratings. And this one's actually gonna be a yes for me. I was so intrigued by this book. Again, some of those elements where you're like, this just would not happen in real life, or at least in no life or nobody else's lives that I know. But this one to me was fascinating, much better than The Tenant. I think some of her books lately have just been so far out there that her older books, I mean, I think this is a 2021, so it's not that old. I thought this was better than The Tenant. I feel like they're just rushing out so many Frida books. She's already had at least 2 this year and another one coming out that I just feel like they used to be better. And so I like to listen to older ones. Oh wow, I did not expect the whodunit of this book, which is why I'm going to give it a yes. I need that like hallelujah music or like the glory music. Ready? Oh, that was so off pitch. I'm gonna try again. Was it any better? I don't know, but one of my most highly anticipated summer reads, Carly Fortune One Golden Summer. It goes into the same area or like world as her other book, Every Summer After, which I didn't realize until I started to read it and then people were talking about it online. But it's kind of one of those like standalone romance books, but if you read the whole series or if you've read her other books, it'll tie in, but I wouldn't say that it's a crazy thing that you have to read Every Summer After before One Golden Summer. This book, total nostalgia for me. As kids growing up, we had family friends that lived in Michigan and we would go to a lake in Michigan, sometimes Lake Charlevoix, Gull Lake, over by Lake Michigan, a couple different lakes up in Michigan, but we would have lake house summers for like a week and a half, 2 weeks with our two families, and it was the best time ever. Battle tubing, making a makeshift camp in the backyard. Like, I look back at my childhood with such fond memories. I'm just like, wow, my parents are so cool. Like, I love them. And anyway, all of that brought me to this with One Golden Summer, where I was just immediately brought back to that lake life, and I'm like, we need to get a house on the lake this summer because this book was everything. A swoon-worthy romance. I loved Charlie. I thought that he was such a great male main character, which sometimes they're lacking in romance books. It's really the girl that makes the book sparkle, but I do think the male main character, he really did his due diligence in this book, and I loved it so much. If you're looking for that lake life, swoony summer romance that just brings you back, even if you didn't go to the lake as a kid, I just feel like, and it's not really their childhood so much in this book, but for me, that's how I relate. Carly Fortune really did it with this one, and I think it's my favorite one of her books. This is an absolute yes for me. Fiona Davis's book, The Stolen Queen, is something I wanted to read for so long, and I just kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off because I wanted to read swoony romance books. Like, what can I say? But then through the library, I got it as an audiobook, and holy smokes, I started to beat myself up on why I didn't read it sooner or listen to it sooner. This is just a large font book from Amazon because I couldn't get the regular font soon enough, but I do want to get this maybe in the hardback version. I have been to Egypt before, just for a couple short days back in 2023, and I don't know what it was, but reading this book, I was like, immediately you need to go back. Of course, they were talking Cairo, but they were talking Luxor and some of the monuments that I've visited, and like the Valley of the Kings and all these places where I have been and I have seen. I'm like, yep, immediately need to go back to Egypt. But if you haven't been there before, that isn't to say that you won't like this book. Again, I'm just talking about personally, that is one of the reasons why I gave this book a yes. Of course, I loved the writing. I loved the storytelling. I thought that this was perfect. It jumps in timelines from Egypt in the 1930s, I think 1936, yes, in New York City in the late 70s, 1978, and it bounces back between times, and you're trying to figure out how these stories connect and what happens, and it's just, oh my goodness. At one point I thought I knew where it was going, and then it switched and then it turned, and I absolutely loved this book. I will read just a tiny bit off the back. I know I said I wasn't gonna do it, but let me just read you like this big blurb. New York City's most glamorous party, Egypt's Valley of the Kings, two women whose lives are changed forever after one fateful night. So I'm gonna give you that much, and I'm just going to tell you, if you don't have the time to physically read this book, the audiobook was so well done. You just absolutely have to check out this book, whether you read it physically or listen to it. I just thought the storytelling was so powerful, the imagery was so powerful, and I just wanted to be immersed in this book at all times, which is why The Stolen Queen, of course, gets a yes. Julie Soto came out with a new book in the month of May. This is The Thrashers, and it's unlike anything that she's ever written, at least as far as I know, or what I read. I've only read her romance book, and this was more of a high school drama mystery thriller kind of a book, and I know that later this year she's coming out with a fantasy book, so she is really diversifying her books and her style, and I thought that this was a good book. I gave this, I think, a yes in my other video, or if I didn't, I'm gonna give it a yes now. I was between a maybe and a yes, just because I always say, like, I don't love to read high school books or books set in high school, like Better Than the Movies or Better Than the Movies, that book, Lynn Painter, who everyone talks about, and I read it last year, and I was like, why am I reading about a high school romance? Like, I just personally feel like I don't need to be reading about high schoolers, and so I didn't realize, I guess, when I had put this book on hold, that this was a high school, almost you can kind of see like a burn book on the front cover. Meanwhile, I mean, this is a journal, but still. So I had mixed emotions while reading this, going, oh, reading about a high school book, but I do love Julie Soto's writing. I thought the plot was really well done, so that's where I was torn, and then ultimately I was like, yes, it's a yes. But I'm gonna preface it with that, is that this is a high school book. The setting is high school. It is about a high school friend group called the Thrashers. I guess they don't officially call themselves the Thrashers, but everyone in high school calls this group of friends the Thrashers. I hope that there's trigger warnings actually in the front of this book, because it definitely has some darker themes, and it talks about, so it does have the thing here about, you know, there's suicide, bullying, body image, alcohol, all kinds of stuff. going on in this book. So for sure some darker themes, and this is just so unlike my high school experience. So another reason why it leaned more toward the yes. But again, if you're like me and you're like, I don't want to read a book about high schoolers, maybe this isn't the one for you, but definitely check out Julie Soto. I love her writing. An anticipated summer romance read for me because I love her other books. It's Catherine Center, The Love Haters. This is gonna be a maybe. I would say it was a no, but there were some good points. This is not the summer romance book of the year. So it does have the Coast Guard and brothers and Key West, and there definitely is a romance involved. There's also natural disaster in this book as well. I'm just now realizing I had 2 books this month with natural disaster, but I'm gonna put this in a maybe because I do think if you are picking 1 or 2 summer romance books for the summer, this is not the one I'm gonna tell you to pick up. But if you're like me and you read a ton of books, like this was a quick read. I don't even know if it took me more than a day to read this. Like I absolutely consumed this book. It was such an easy read. It like went down so easily digestible words, themes, and those kinds of things. But I mean, the cover really gets you. It's so cute. But I just thought the book was meh. I was really disappointed by this, and I do love Catherine Center's writing. So little bummer from this one, and I'm putting it in the maybe pile. Woo! A heavy book, a heavy book. But again, another one that's been consistently like deferred for my Kindle is the Kite Runner. And so I finally was like, I'm just gonna put my name down for the audiobook. And then when the audiobook was given to me, I did think it was a bit of a hard listen, but I wanted to consume this book so much that I stuck through it. And once I got through the first hour or so and I was really used to the narrator's accent, I did okay with this book. But just know if you're not good with accents, this one would definitely be a hard audiobook listen. But oh my gosh, a hard-hitting, heavy book, spans multiple decades, friendships, new life in America, just a heavy themed topics, but such a powerful book. I think I gave this one 4 stars. This is a definite yes for me. The Kite Runner. This is not your Love Haters, One Golden Summer, swoony romance. This is you want your heart torn up in 10 million different pieces, smashed on the floor, and then you have to put it back together. So that's how it felt listening to this book, and I think it always just gives me a perspective change. I want to just make sure I have a book like The Kite Runner or a heavy hitter book on my list every month from now on, because I think that this book really like put me in my place and put me sort of in a somber place listening to it. But wow, this book was insane. It's set in Afghanistan. I don't know what the year exactly is that this book is set in, and it's not saying on the back, but wow. 4 stars. This is absolutely in the yes pile. On a lighter note, here's the other Annabelle Monaghan book that I read this month. This is Summer Romance. It's not as capitalized or as hard of a yes as It's a Love Story by Annabelle Monaghan that I talked about in the beginning of this video, but still a swoony summer romance. I thought the setting was cute. I love the dog park. It's definitely more of a mature romance love story because Allie, the female main character in this book, already has kids. So it's definitely not like your 23-year-old, 25-year-old, 28-year-old single, never been married kind of a romance. But I think that the way that it was written was very well done, and I enjoyed every second of it. So this is another yes for my list. Another one in the maybe pile that's actually maybe closer leaning toward no than yes in a maybe is Tell Me What You Did. If you're gonna sit down and read a whodunit mystery thriller book that is this thick, for example, like here's one of the other ones from this month that's a mystery thriller, I think that it should go better. It was a long audiobook. I was thinking, why is this book so drawn out? I think that it could have been shortened. I don't even know how many pages this book ended up being. 400. This could have been a 300-page book. So I think that there's about 100 pages of like, oh my gosh, when is it gonna actually happen? So, but I liked the setting of the podcast. I think again, it went a little too far with the home intrusions and some of the other stuff that happened in this book. I feel like there are just other better mystery books that don't take up this much time for what it ends up being, if that makes sense. So I think that's where I'm gonna leave this one. I don't know if you really want to hear so much about it, but Po Webb hosts a true crime podcast, and she has people come on the show and admit the crimes that they've done. A strange and oddly familiar man appears on her show, and it's her mother's murderer that she thought was dead because she killed him. That's what it says in the back. And then it sort of goes through who actually is this guy, where did he come from, what's he doing, and it goes back and forth in time between a podcast that's happening in real time and then sort of the backstory behind it. That's where I'm gonna give you that. It's in the maybe pile. Another maybe, but this is leaning more toward yes, is Alice Feeney's book, Daisy Darker. And this was another audiobook that I listened to, and it's definitely better than the Tell Me What You Did book. Still a bit of meh, not exactly yes, but almost yes. I didn't love the premise, and then at the end I was like, what are you doing? Alice Feeney, I loved Beautiful Ugly, so that's why I wanted to read Daisy Darker, or read it, listen to it. I consider it the same thing, but I feel like it's a good differentiator being like, I actually listened to this book. Daisy Darker's Nana is about to die 80 years old and gets her whole family to come to this house on a deserted island you can only get to by boat. Like, there's high tide, low tide, and you can't get out after the tide comes in, so they're all trapped in this house. Every hour somebody is dying one by one, and just trying to figure out who's killing who, what's the plan, and who ends up surviving and what happens. I thought it was intriguing and interesting, but it just didn't do it completely for me. So that's why it's the maybe, leaning more toward yes. Definitely better than Tell Me What You Did, but still not better than that Locked Door Freida McFadden. So I'm putting them in order for you, for me, on my personal opinion, like what would be better. That's how I'm sort of ranking these, and I think I gave this a 3-star. Last book of the month, I'm ending with a yes. This is A Curse Carved in Bone by Danielle L. Jensen. Let's give a moment for the metallic sprayed edges. I feel like sprayed edges are starting to get a little overdone, but every time I see them, I also love them so much still. On the actual contents of the book, this is the second and final in the duology of the Unfated, I think it's the Unfated Saga, the Unfated series, and that comes after A Fate Inked in Blood. It is a Nordic fantasy. This is in my top 3 for the month. This obviously is a yes for me, but of course it's the second book in the duology, or in the series, so you have to read A Fate Inked in Blood first. I had to give myself like a little refresher on what that book was, because I read it just about this time last year, I think, or a little bit after the summer, maybe it was in August of last year, I'm not really sure, but I was so dang excited for this book to come out, and it did not disappoint. I love the fantasy books. I just got into them last year, and so I'm just one by one like eating up all of these series. So usually in the summer I like a swoony romance, and most of my TBR for the summer, physical reading and not audiobooks, are swoony romances, because most of the time I'm sitting in the heat and on the beach or near the pool, and I just want to like read some fluffy romance book, because sometimes these books are like, what is that book? Who is this character? Why is their name so hard to pronounce? Where are they going now? Some of these books take a little bit more thought, such as A Curse Carved in Bone. Anyway, all that to say, I thought it was so well done. I liked how the duology ended. I had very few complaints with this book. I do actually think last time I read a duology, I think it was the last time, or one of the last times, was One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns, and I thought Two Twisted Crowns completely was better than One Dark Window. Like, the second was so much better than the first, and in this aspect, like, the second was good, but I think the first just blew me out of the water. That the second, it was kind of hard to compare, and I was a little annoyed at some of these characters and what was going on, but the story had me in such high interest, and I needed to know what happened. Like, that's how these fantasy books get me, and why I love them so much is because it takes so much detail, and it's so much harder, I'm assuming. I mean, I've never written a book. It's gotta be so much harder to write a book like this than it is a romance book, just with all the details. So that in and of itself, I appreciate so much, but still, regardless, this is an absolute yes on my list. So there you have it, the yes, no, maybe YouTube version of the 14 books I read and listened to in May. What did you think? Did you like this better than the other videos? Would you rather me go back to the other format? I really enjoyed filming this. It felt like such a breath of fresh air from what I normally do for these videos. So let me know if you feel the same. Like I said, I would give you my top 3, which I sort of told you as I went on. It's a Love Story, One Golden Summer, and A Curse Carved in Bone were my top 3 from this month. I feel like it was easy to choose and hard to choose all at the same time, because I felt like the Kite Runner and the Stolen Queen really could have vied for the positions, but like a summer romance book, like I've been waiting for this book, very highly anticipated, finishing off the duology, and like these two romances just were, I just love them. They gave me all the ooey gooey warm feelings inside, and I just couldn't get over them. So that is the top 3 for the month. All that being said, there is my reading wrap up. I love you guys so much, whether or not you read a book at all this month, you read 25 books, you read 6 books, I don't care what it is. I'm so proud of you. Thank you guys for coming along on this fun journey with me. Again, make sure you comment down below and let me know if you like this style of video. Anyway, I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next video, most likely abroad. Bye!